Hey, welcome to Small Business Big Visibility. I'm super excited. A couple months ago, I was flying back from a conference, and guy sitting in front of me has this pen, is the same pen I got at the conference, and it started this whole conversation and friendship. And now I've got the opportunity to have Scott Aughtmon on the podcast today. I'm super excited. This guy he's written multiple books. He's collaborated with some of the biggest names in the marketing world over the past 20 years. He literally helped kind of establish this idea of content marketing on the internet and bring it to where it's the forefront. And he's also taught at universities. I mean, this guy's been all over the place. And now he's working as a senior manager for one of the major tech companies. If you heard the name, you'd know it because everybody knows this company. And he's this content strategy, senior manager, content strategy at this tech company, right? Did I get that right?
That's right, man. You got
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I mean, I know what company is and impressive.
I know you were doing well at not saying the exact name like we planned. So good job.
There we go. So tell us your story. How did you get into this world of content marketing and what's your backstory? Because you've also been a business owner too at various times.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So it was over 20 years ago. I had no interest in marketing at all, never paid attention to it, never cared about it. And I started this was a long time ago. I started trying to work on a website in a small music niche. And as I was building this website and trying to get it to grow, I suddenly realized, oh, I think I need marketing. And so I'm a reader, and this was the late 90s at this point. And so I just start reading everything, every online guru at that point. I was reading every book they mentioned, every book that I could find, online or at Barnes and Noble. I was just consuming all of this information. And I didn't realize that at the time, but a lot of these internet gurus back then were really teaching direct response marketing, something that's been around for, over 100 years. In fact, it's really the type of marketing that's behind most online marketing, right? So, I didn't know. I'm learning this. I don't know. They're mentioning books that are very famous and, in demand. I'm just reading what they tell me. And it's during this process, I keep working on this website. And during that time, I began to build that website. Back then, I started to get a consistent amount of traffic, and back in the day, we had these online forums, and that was like basically like my membership site. And, I built it to about 1,200 people. And in this small niche, the numbers that I was hitting monthly and with the membership and the forum were pretty good. And so I began to just realize, you know what? I never paid attention to marketing before, but I see it everywhere now. Now it's like my reticular activating system is on. Like I see it everywhere. I'm thinking about it, and I realize not only do I notice it, I like marketing. And I notice my brain is like, I'm pretty good with marketing. And so that sort of began the journey of how I got into marketing. And it was around 2002, after September 11th, not long after then, where I could see that a recession was coming. And I had come across one of these marketers that said one way to position yourself in the market and to create an information product, right? Like information you can sell, is to interview experts and compile it into a book. And at this point, in that small music niche website, I had been interviewing experts or musicians in that arena. And I was like, oh, I know how to, interview people. Like I could do that. And so I came up with this idea for the book, How You Can Survive and Prosper in a Recession. And it was for business owners. And I had this idea and I was chickening out for a long time. And one night I was just like sort of yelling at myself, like you always get these ideas and then you chicken out. And so I just made myself send this email. So I sent this email out to these top marketers, and it was just a small list, but I basically asked them three questions. I asked them, what's the common mistake most businesses make in a recession? What are some methods you would use to survive and prosper in a recession? And what's a little known way to make money or to generate revenue? Because I knew these marketers that I had been studying and ones that I hadn't been studying, but I knew of, they knew how to survive and prosper in a recession, but most business owners don't. So I click send, I send out the email to several of them. And I wake up the next morning and three or four of them had already sent me back the answers. And the only thing I offered them was a resource box so they could promote anything they wanted. That was it. And one of the guys, I can't mention his name, was a top marketer who's become huge over the years. And I remembered that he co-authored a book with this guy named Jay Conrad Levinson, who in the marketing world at that point, and he's still very well known as like the godfather of marketing. Like he was behind many famous ad campaigns, Marlboro, uh, and other. And so I remembered he co-authored a book with this guy that had just given me an interview. So I thought, I'm gonna send this email to him, and I'm gonna put the list of the guys who already gave me their answers, and put the guy that co-authored with him at the top. And I sent it out to this guy, Jay Conrad Levinson, and I can't remember if I mentioned he's the author of Guerrilla Marketing, which is a really huge best-selling book. I send it to him, and he writes back, and he gave me his answers. It's what I call positive peer pressure. You know, you want to do what other people that you know do, or people that you think are cool are doing. And so anyway, that began this process where in the end, I ended up interviewing 20 business, sales, and marketing experts. And some of these were best-selling authors that were very well known, like Jay, or some of them were well known in their niche to their people. Maybe outside of that niche, you know, people don't know them, but you know, in that arena, they're huge. And you know, some huge sales authors like Tom Hopkins and other people. So that kind of began that process where I had gone from at that point probably implementing marketing for 3 years to putting together this book. And at this point, I was getting all these answers, and I'm reading it, and I'm like, I would pay to read this book, you know. So I'm getting excited. I wrote an
Yeah.
intro and a conclusion, and then I had this idea, which um, I wasn't sure it was going to work, but I was just like, I emailed each of them and I said, here's your interview. Here's the book. Check out your interview. Make sure it looks good to you. And if you get a chance, take a look at the others. And if you like what you see, can you send me a testimonial? I send it out to see what's going to happen. Next thing I know, basically they all checked out their interviews, basically proofread for me. And they've sent me testimonials. And I'm getting testimonials for the book like that I couldn't pay people to send me, like, and they were genuine. And, so Jay Conrad Levinson, this best-selling author, he sends me this testimonial. It's just like, amazing about the book. So
Hmm.
I do all of these things well. And then I finally get to the place where I make a major mistake. I put this book together for the audience of small business owners who need to survive and prosper in a recession. And then what I do is focus on people who want to make money online to try to sell it. So
Mm.
I end up not selling as many copies as I could have or should have because I focused on the wrong audience. And then secondly, I did not market it well. So that was one of the first lessons that was reinforced about the importance of marketing. You can have an amazing product, an amazing service, right? But if nobody knows about it or you pitch it and put it in front of the wrong people, it's like a dud. And you think, what's wrong? It's all because you did not market it well. You picked the wrong audience. So,
Yep, yep, totally. Can't sell ice in the wintertime, right?
right, right.
So what'd you do after that? How did you pivot after that?
So at that point, the interesting thing was, so I messed up at marketing it, but what I learned and realized was the importance of positioning yourself in the marketplace.
Mm.
Because I now was an author of this book, right? I'd written the intro and conclusion. I had interviewed these top experts, so I psychologically associated myself with them,
Yep.
for good or bad for them. So I started to do some interviews on the radio back then, and online, and there weren't podcasts like this, back then. But I started to be able to be positioned in the marketplace as a marketer, as an author, and then also as a recession solution expert, right? Because I had interviewed at this point, 20 something people, right? And had gotten their answers and compiled them of how to survive and prosper a recession. So at that point, I keep plugging along. I've got this website at this point called recessionsolution.com where, I'm selling this book. And I start blogging, I start writing and all these different blog posts on different marketing ideas I have. And I'm just beginning to share my thoughts, share my ideas. And I end up, through a long story, ending up working on the East Coast at a nonprofit using marketing. So what I had started out doing had opened up a door for me. Again, the positioning, right? And taking action instead of sitting around waiting for something to happen, had opened up that door. And I was doing marketing there. I did direct response marketing and online marketing, digital marketing, and continue to learn. I'm still just reading everything I can. I'm consuming information, digital books, ebooks, physical books, everything.
Yeah, yeah.
And at that point, I moved back to the Bay Area, and it is around 2008, where, if anybody knows timing, there's another recession coming.
Right.
And I'm like, you know what? The book that I had that I first did is good, is evergreen. A lot of what's in it, like, is always going to be true about a recession, regardless.
Mhm.
But then I thought, why don't I try to do another one? And so began to reach out to additional sales, business, and marketing experts. And what I found was, because of that first book, remember that positive peer pressure I was talking about?
Oh,
People wanted to be associated with those people in that first book and the people that I was interviewing in the second book. And so I put together that second book and released it. So I ended up with two volumes with a combined of, like, I took a couple people out of the first book that I didn't want to feature any longer, and ended up with like 38 business sales and marketing experts sharing their their knowledge of how to survive and prosper in a recession. Two things. The first thing is, I realized I'd interviewed 38 different people, right? And some of them had talked before with each other before they gave me the interview. Some didn't.
hmm.
Most didn't. But what I started to realize is, I'm starting to see a common, like, some of them are starting to give me the same answer for what's the biggest mistake people make in a recession.
Oh, interesting.
You know? So I'm starting to see common themes. And when I see that, I'm like, that's a universal truth. It's not just one person saying, but like 5, 10, 20 people saying it. Okay, that must be true.
Yeah.
So I'm getting those insights. And then at the same time, the interesting thing is, I'm also getting very unique answers, because, right, because if you're a salesperson and I'm asking you, how do you survive and prosper in a recession, you have a certain skill set and mindset where you're answering in a certain way, right? If I'm asking, a person that's really good with business growth, they're going to answer a different way. A marketer's going to answer a different way. So I get this combined interesting knowledge of universal principles and very specific, unique principles. And so again, I'm marketing it, and it's during that time where, and I've been continued to blog for that time. So this is, at this point, maybe 10 years I've been doing marketing, and but the nonprofit and online and on the side. And I begin doing consulting. I just start out with friends.
Sure.
They're the ones that are willing to get it and to have it, and I start to realize, oh, okay, like, yeah, I can actually help these people. And then I move from there, and I begin to do paid consulting, and I'm continuing to kind of build out that skill set and that mindset. Because, each time I'm working with this new person, this
Mhm.
new business, I'm able to see again, these things I had first started learning 10 years ago at that point, these principles and these direct response marketing principles, and I'm able to help them to implement it in their business. And I'm learning new things with each different one that I'm working with, because I'm seeing some of the things. It doesn't matter what the business is, but they're all the same, same issues, right? Ultimately, same, fundamentals,
Yeah.
same principles. And at that point is the time, it's about 2011. I'm back in the Bay Area. I started a website called baybusinesshelp.com. And I put it together for local business owners. And what I do is I begin to create content. So I'm writing one post a week, and then I'm curating content, which, again, there's the difference, right? Creating is brand new content. Curating is where you're basically finding the best information out there, and you're helping your audience to know, hey, pay attention to this, because they're overwhelmed with everything coming at them, right? And so and curating content is really becoming a big thing at that time, or it's becoming more obvious in the marketplace and
Yeah.
more needed, because at this point the market is more flooded, right? And so I do that, and then I do one other thing. I learned that if I can interview experts, I can help them by promoting them, and I can actually help my audience, right? And I can actually take some of the load off of creating content.
Hmm.
So I reach out to local marketing experts, SEO experts, business experts, and I ask them, do you want to write one post a month for me? You can again share your business, anything you want. I get three or four other people. So now I basically have this website that I built out over, it still exists. I just haven't done anything with it since moving to Idaho. For years, I built out this website and I'm able to continue to create content to service the marketplace, again, to leverage the benefits of helping experts because you're getting a synergy of all these experts being able to help each other right together and share something where we're all lifting each other up. And so that continues to nudge me forward and gives me more of that experience. And again, it's the idea is this uh, constant thing of how do I get exposure into the marketplace, right?
Yeah.
And at this point, content marketing is becoming a thing. And I'm like, what's content marketing? And it's about 2012. Actually, it's about 2010 at this point. So I may have started it even before I did Bay Business Help. And I'm like, what's content marketing? And I start to realize, oh, okay, like it's content that you use to market, right, yourself, your business, your service.
It's what you've
And
been doing all these years, right?
exactly. At this point, I'm like, I'm like, that's content marketing. Like I was doing that back when I was doing that music website when I started there. When I first put together that first volume of the Recession book that I had, How You Can Survive and Prosper in a Recession. And I realized that was content that promoted me. And actually it literally did, right? It opened the
Yeah.
doors, right? And so I was like, oh, I know how to do content marketing. And so I had been blogging on my blog on recessionsolution.com for many years. I was starting to get a good, following. I was on what was called Twitter back then, and I was, doing well. But I thought, you know what? I think I'm going to try to write a guest post for them. And so
Hmm.
during this time, Justin Bieber was new, and I had seen that there's an old radio station for kids called Radio Disney, and I had seen how they were using content marketing to promote Justin Bieber, and I thought, I think I can write a blog post about that. So I wrote it, then I pitched it to this website called contentmarketinginstitute.com. And they were, and to clarify on the intro, I'm not really the person that made content marketing big. They're really the ones that made content marketing big. Joe Pulizzi is. He really made it become a thing, an industry, right? Really by his creating that website. But I was able to slide into that and to participate in those early years and later years and be a part of that. And so I wrote that blog post, and they liked it. They took it, and that began this relationship where now I'm a guest author on the blog, and I'm writing content marketing blog posts, and I'm continuing now, again, positioning myself. And I'm continuing now to broaden because I've been learning marketing at 10 for 10 years or so at this point. And now I'm suddenly like pulling in this content marketing aspect and trying to tie it all together.
Yeah.
And my next lesson that I'll point out is I'm starting to realize when I would post a blog post on my site, I got a decent amount of attention and comments. But when I posted it on their website, instead of like 20 comments or 30, I could get 50 comments or 100 comments.
Yeah.
And it was again, and that was where suddenly now I'm getting people to do consulting with at a higher level. I'm getting the highest paid consulting gigs of the whole time I've been doing it because of these opportunities, because of the knowledge I had gained at this point, and because of the positioning and being able to be back to that original lesson put in front of the right audience. So I'm getting a different response than I was put in front of a different audience, right? The one I had
Yep.
built on my own, right? So that's where I got to. So
Yeah. And so over this course, what is that? Like this 20-year journey you've been on or more, you've really been able to associate with some of these big names. You've been able to contribute in meaningful ways, written multiple books. So I think, like, and then you've done your consulting, right? Where you've helped these little guys, the big companies. you have this very unique experience base. And I know that some people right now are questioning, are we in a recession? Are we heading into a recession? Like, where are we at there? And I think the principles that you've discovered probably work not in a recession or in a recession, right? They're good both ways. And so, if you were to throw something out there, what would you say to our audience who's either afraid we're in a recession, or maybe they just personally are struggling and they're like, oh man, I can't seem to get my business back on its feet. We're just having a hard time, don't have traction. What would you say to someone in that position?
The interesting thing in the first book that I did, on the recession, one of the guys that I interviewed said that the same things that you should be doing outside of a recession are the things that you should be doing inside of a recession when a recession is happening. But usually when everything's going well, we neglect the things we should be doing.
Ah,
So the interesting thing is there are some specific things that now that I say that, maybe not. Most of the things that help during a recession are the things we should have been doing outside of the recession, but things were going so well we didn't have to do them.
gotcha.
So the first thing I would say is it goes back to, and again, some business owners may not know this, but like, when I asked that question, what's the common mistake most businesses make? The one answer that I got from the majority, not everyone, but a lot of them, was that most people stop marketing.
Hmm.
So you're afraid because of recession, so you stop marketing. So you stop actually putting yourself out in front of the audience you need to sell to, and then you're wondering why everything's going downhill, right? Or you got away with not marketing consciously. Most people are marketing what maybe other people are marketing for them. Maybe it's Yelp that's marketing for them, right? Maybe it's whatever those things are.
Mhm.
And during the good times, they could get away with that. But when the recession hits, they now need to do some things they had never done before because they didn't need to, right? Now it's like, okay, now I actually have to consciously market. Now I actually have to get people to share about my business instead of just find out they were accidentally doing it on Yelp because I was providing a good service or something. So that's what I would, without going too deep on the recession topic, and we can go a little bit more if you want, but that's the number one thing I would say. It's to get back to those key things. And if you don't know what those key things, that's where you really need to start to realize I've been riding on a wave of, positive economy, and I didn't realize all the benefits I had. And now I need to start to leverage some of the things, that I maybe, a customer list or lists maybe you've never used, or you never even created a customer list. Like now is the time to have that list so that now you have a group of people that you can market to, stay in front of, and offer your services or your products to.
Yeah, yeah. I can't say the number of businesses I've talked to that have done business for years and don't have a clue how many people they've even worked with over that time, right?
Right. Right.
Uh,
Well, and when COVID hit, there was a lot of businesses that were getting walk-in, like traffic. That's how they survived, right? Because people came by, people drove by. And depending what state you were in, right? Idaho was much more open than other places. But even with office buildings closing down, right? It's like, less people in the office. And now people are coming back. But with those things happening, suddenly the thing they never had to be paying attention to, customers, prospects walking by, seeing you, needing what you're offering, like they never had to worry about it. And suddenly COVID hits, and they're like, oh my gosh, I have no way. Like all those customers you're talking about, those people I deal with all the time, I don't even have a way to reach out to them and talk to them and say, hey, I got a special on lunch today. If you want to come by, or I'll deliver it to you. You know what I mean? Like they had no way to talk to these people because they
right.
never needed to before. But that's a thing they should have been doing when things were awesome and amazing before COVID. And they didn't. And then when COVID hit, hopefully the lesson for business owners is it's those types of things. I mean, that in a sense could have been like you could consider like a recession, although for some businesses it became a boom.
Yeah.
But it's those kind of moments where it's really just showing you the things you've been ignoring all along. And there's these certain levers that most businesses don't always realize that they could, be pulling to leverage things or to initiate things or to take things that they just sort of let slide to the next level that can begin to change their experience, their revenue, their leads, their customers, their conversion rates, all that. So.
Now, one of the things that I've noticed is a lot of business owners, they've heard this before. They've heard, oh, I gotta have an email list. I gotta whatever, right? Or I should be on social media. And I just had a meeting a couple days ago where they're like, well, what should I talk about? Should I talk about my products all? Like, is that my content pillar? And so do you mind helping people kind of grasp maybe at a high level what that is they should be talking about if they have an email list? Because nobody wants to be sold in every single email. Like you
Right.
unsubscribe as soon as you start getting those, right? So what do
Right.
they do?
Well, one thing, it was during that time when I was writing for Content Marketing Institute. One night I'm sitting there because at this point I'm such a marketing nerd that I think about marketing all the time. So I'm watching TV with my wife, but I'm thinking about marketing because, something triggered like, my ADD brain to like connect dots that don't exist. And I start to realize, you know what? There is content that people crave, whether it's a TV show, a movie, podcast, an email you're sending your customers, a book. And I start to think, I'm like, I think there's a certain type of content. Like I've seen it, like because at this point also I've begun to speak, right? I've spoken and taught marketers content marketing, taught authors, how to do marketing. And when you speak in front of an audience, you notice there's certain things when you hit certain topics, stories, like the audience suddenly goes from being like glossed over eyes to suddenly leaning in,
Hmm.
zooming in. So I just start creating this list, and I'm like, let's just see what I can come up with. So I just start writing a list, content that shows you there's more content where David beats Goliath, right? We love stories where the little guy beats the big guy, right?
Yep.
Or
Yep.
so because most of us, even if we have larger companies, we think we're the little guy anyway, right? We don't think we're the Goliath. Um, and so I just write this whole list, and in the end, I come up with this list of 21 types of content we crave. And I look at this list and I'm like, I think this could be really helpful to people. I'm glad my brain went off on that tangent. So I got it designed into an infographic, which at that time infographics were a new big thing. I submitted it to Content Marketing Institute, and I said, "Hey, I came up with this idea. I've got this infographic. Would you be interested in posting it?" And they were like, "Yeah. Would you write an intro and conclusion, short?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So I write it. Write it. I don't remember the exact date, but it was in I think it was in 2012. But they posted it goes live, and all of a sudden like people just like swarm that blog post, and it's like it got shared like maybe 800 times on Twitter back then. It ended up with like 102 comments before they shut the comment section down, and it just went like crazy. It went viral, and I so first of all I realized there is content that people crave
Yeah.
because that was an example. But I also realized, sometimes you like if you listen to a comedian, some of the funniest comedians, they make you laugh because when they say it, you realize how true it is. Like they point out something you realized was there, but never noticed it, right? And so it's like I realized that I had hit this like topic that resonated with people, and they realized they needed it. They realized it existed, and they realized I need to figure out. So not only marketers are sharing it and like posting it on their blogs, but like authors are and speakers are and so it was in that moment where I started to realize that there's this way of thinking about content that on a universal level where you really can help draw in your customers. And to answer that question, I'm getting there on what do you write for your emails to your customers? What content do you share online? I would encourage people to think about the story of their business, like what's
Hmm.
happening. Like if you think on History Channel, they have American Pickers, if anybody knows that show. So like on that show, what is it? It was Mike and Frank. And what they did basically was Mike had the idea for the show. They were going around picking and finding these hidden antique treasures around the country, and they were selling them in their store, right? Like, so how do you create content about that? And Mike realizes the hunt, right? If you think, what's the big story? It's a treasure hunt, right? Everybody loves treasure hunts, right? So I don't know if he thought that deeply, but just to, unpack it for the people listening or watching. So he pitches it to History Channel,
Hmm.
and their whole story is how they go and find these, and it's the people, the interesting characters of the people that like you might call them hoarders in some contexts, but somehow when you have a lot of property and you get a lot of stuff and you can spread it out, you're not a hoarder, you're a picker.
Right.
But So like,
It's kind
I
of like
love
the
that
rich are
show.
eccentric, right?
That's right, right? Exactly. But like I started watching that show. I loved it. And I was like, I don't care about picking, but I cared about the stories.
Yeah.
And like what are they going to find? What is that little piece of junk worth?
Mm-hmm.
So again, that's a story. Like, and then he literally pitches it right to History Channel. History Channel creates a show which becomes huge, and then suddenly, right, their business is positioned in the marketplace. Now, if you want to go, you may never wanted to buy antiques or whatever you want to call it, but suddenly you see the show and now you want to go buy it, right? Or if you
Yeah.
did, if you're ever going to go buy it, who are you going to go buy it from? Those people. So if people could begin to think about email or social media and think about the story of what's happening in their business. And then the other thing I would encourage them is, remember my original lesson where I was pitching to the wrong audience, right? I was trying to sell the Recession book to people that were trying to make money online. Is to really think about that audience, right? Like who are you writing the email for, right? What is their biggest pain? What's their biggest goal, right? What's their biggest desire or need that your business fulfills? And make sure that you create it for them, right? Don't write it like for here's why I'm awesome and why what I'm offering you is awesome. Like here,
Right.
like speak to them in a way so that you're showing like if your business helps someone's house look more beautiful or be safer, right? Like sell the beauty and the safety, right? Like create content, share testimonials, share stories, of what's happening, share how you helped, business or customer to achieve this so that somebody sees that's what I want to achieve. I want that story. I want that before and after story to be my story, right? And
Yep.
so if you can begin to think of things like that and begin to get your mind thinking about like what are the opportunities out there in my business? What are the stories that I can tell? And then pay attention to like what other people that are speaking to your same audience are doing on social media or in their emails. Sign up for competitors' email lists, sign up for email lists of other companies that are speaking to your same audience, even if they're selling something else,
Hmm.
because they will show you unintentionally the type of content that you can and should create. And once you get used to it, at first it's really hard, but then after a while, your brain sort of gets used to seeing the idea, capturing it, figuring out if you don't know how to write well, then just speak on a camera. If you don't want to be on a camera, you can do audio, right? Like you can do a podcast, right? So find the content format that works for you, and then just start to do it. And after a while, you start to do it, you start to see it, and coming up with the content is not as difficult. So.
Gotcha. And now to transition a little bit, appreciate all those tips, but that's also your business right now, right? You're helping business owners that are kind of looking to scale up to have those tips and tools and tricks and all the things they need. You're helping implement that into companies, aren't it? Do you mind speaking to that a little bit?
Yeah, so like as you talked as we were talking, as this journey, ultimately, 6 years ago, I started to work for this large company and was able to take my marketing, my direct response marketing, and my content marketing experience and bring it to this arena. And let me back up one second. When I ended up teaching marketing at UC Berkeley Extension, again through the long process of positioning and things like that. And it was during that time I asked them. I said I would teach the class, but I want to be able to create the content. And they said as long as it covers the syllabus, you can do it. And so I said, okay, great. It was in the process of having to create like content for this marketing class that I started to see connections after, at this point, 20 something years, I started to see connections between direct response marketing, content marketing, digital marketing. And I started to realize the best content marketers were implementing direct response marketing. The best direct response marketers were implementing content marketing. And
Yeah.
it was during that time I came up with this type of marketing that I call direct response content marketing because I saw like it was after as I formed this class and had to show how marketing works online, offline, email, right, content that I saw those connections. And then I get this job 6 years ago at this company, and I'm able to take the stuff that I learned from all the way at the beginning, all the way till now, and implement it now in an arena that's larger, different, bigger, right, than ever before.
Sure.
And the thing that ended up happening is when I taught that class at UC Berkeley Extension, I told my students all marketing is the same, whether it's a small business, and at that point, Oracle was right down the street from where I was teaching. And I had a student from Oracle learning marketing. But I'm like the same marketing problems, principles, things that you need for the uh, restaurant down the street are in the same that Oracle needs. But it was once I got into the context, and again, I did consulting in different places, but when I got into this context that I'm in now, where I saw it is all the same.
Yeah.
There's different, the numbers are different,
Hmm.
but the levers, the switches that need to be turned are the same. And so it was during that time, as I realized this for the last several years, I was like, I really need to get back to consulting again on the side. This is my full-time job is, working at that company. And, I'm not going to work during the times I'm supposed to be working for that company. But as a side gig, I thought, you know what? Now's the time for me to really do this because now I can see that once companies are at a certain level, like a few million, up to 48 million or even higher, once you're at a certain level, I now know there's those certain levers because you have a certain amount of customers. You probably have some sort of customer list, right? You've done a certain amount so that now if you just tweak the right levers or actually perfect, do a better job at certain arenas, you can elevate your revenue. And so my whole thing is I'm looking to, as a side gig, I'm taking on a certain amount of side projects, companies between 2 million and 48 million to help them grow their revenue. And I can't remember if I just said the number or not, so forgive me. But yeah, so I'm like, I'm going to try to take on about 12, but at this point of the year, it's probably going to be less than that. But because I realized I love marketing. I'm crazy enough to think about it all the time anyway. I might as well help other people and might as well get paid for it too. In a way that's overly beneficial for them, and the amount they pay me, compared to the way I can help them is significant. And so yeah, that's my thing now is I'm beginning to work and reach out to companies to find the right ones because at this point too, because I'm doing on the side, I don't need to or want to work with anybody just because I need money. I want to work with companies that I like what they offer. I like them. I like the people. I see opportunities. I don't want to work with ones I don't see opportunities with, And so yeah, so that's my thing where I'm trying to take all of that experience over time and really help a company. Okay, let's help you grow your revenue outside of a recession, inside of a recession, whatever comes your way, because most companies don't realize those little blind spots. Like most of us have blind spots, right? We don't see the thing that everybody else sees, right?
Oh,
But like they don't realize they're so close. There's an opportunity within their company to increase their revenue, and all they're doing is more of the same, and they don't realize, oh, but have you pulled this lever? Have you instituted this? Actually, you're doing this, but have you done it this way? Right? They don't realize the changes that could actually have massive impact. And so the fun thing is I'm going to get a chance to work with those type of businesses, limited numbers. So I'm excited.
yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. How do people connect with you if they're interested? I mean, you've got, is the book still available if people are interested in going out and finding the book? How do they do that? And then at this other end, like there's this big spectrum. Like, can they follow you on social media? Do you have an email list? How do people connect?
Um, I'll give you that answer. Let me just give one little helpful answer to the people that are watching, whether they reach out to me or not. Most businesses don't realize there's only three ways really that any business can make revenue. You,
Oh,
you get
okay.
you get more people to buy, you get people to buy more, or you get people to buy more often.
Hmm.
And most businesses spend all their time, all their effort, all their money on getting more people to buy, more customers, right? Which we all need, right? But it's the most expensive, the most time consuming, the most difficult is to get more new customers, right? But to get people to buy more and to get people to buy more often, is much easier. It doesn't cost anything, near the amount. It doesn't take as much time. That's one example, whether, someone ever reaches out to me or not. If they can begin to tweak again that focus and begin to think about how do we get people to buy more and more often, and you will find that people actually would be glad to do that if you just offered it in the right way. So that's just for anybody that never reaches out, never wants to, or I'm not able to work with them. So the best way to reach out to me is they can connect with me on LinkedIn. That's one way. Another way is they can go to my website, directresponsecontentmarketing.com. If they sign up there, they can register there. I have access to bunch of ebooks, and I'll make sure if I don't have it up there right now, I will put one up there about that I've had in the past about lead magnets and lead generation, which will give them a little bit of a taste of ways to think about focusing on gathering some of those people that maybe aren't ready to buy today, but they're ready to buy tomorrow or 3 months from now or 12 months from now. And you are able to start that relationship so you're in front of them when they're ready to purchase. So,
Awesome. Well, man, you have dropped so many golden nuggets on our audience today. Thank you for taking the time to do that. That's awesome.
thanks, Jason.
Yeah. And to our audience, I'd highly recommend go connect with this guy, start following him, listen to what he's saying. He's been there, done that, and helped so many businesses along the way. And it's truly an expert in the space. And be sure to share this episode with other business owners who maybe are worried about are we in a recession or just struggling with how do I scale up and not sure how to navigate this whole marketing world. Have a great day.